Welcome, this is our inaugural episode of the Pioneer Pulse, and today we get the pleasure of hearing from Mark Adamson, our CEO, who also happens to be a partner of JLL, who's the private equity firm that owns Pioneer. So today we're going to hear from Mark, his perspective on what's going on with Pioneer, not just from a CEO standpoint, but also from the private equity standpoint. Thanks for being here, Mark.
No, you're welcome, Katie.
So Mark, it was actually your idea to do a segment like this for the Pioneer employees. Why do you think it was important for us to sit down and actually chat about things going on?
Yeah, sure. Well, one of the things I've always tried to do a lot of, and I've done it since I've been the CEO of Pioneer, is communication. We have our town halls, we have our Mark's message. I know Paul now puts out his twice monthly message. I think it's really important everybody knows what's going on in the business and their role in that. I also try and get out and about on the road. I've been recently around all the quarries in Colorado, around the stores. Hopefully with coronavirus calming down a little in Arizona, I'll get back to Arizona shortly. But it's very difficult to get all 500 people in the business at once. And I think this is a great way to get to everybody. And I think if I do this, it's proved successful, people like it. We can start to do more of this with Paul, other members of the management team, and even extend it to some of the teams. You know, if we've had a great performance by one of the stores, we should go out and interview them.
That'd be great.
And let everybody see what's going on.
Great. Actually, you mentioned coronavirus, and I know you mentioned hopefully calming down soon. How do you think things have been going so far with Pioneer and COVID?
Well, it's been a hell of a year, I think, for everybody, hasn't it? It's interesting. I've got a daughter in Australia. I've got a family in the UK, obviously. Everybody's in the same boat. You know, this has affected the planet. And it was a surprise to everybody. Nobody's got experience as to how to handle this. And I think when you look back, you know, early March, I was sitting in the office and people had heard of coronavirus, but it wasn't going to be a big thing. A week later, we were all locked down and wondering what to do. And I think
got our masks.
Absolutely. And the initial response, I think, was great. I've talked about it in Mark's message. Paul's talked a lot about it because we were making this up as we go along. You know, we hadn't experienced this before. Paul and I, from a previous life at Fletcher Building, had experienced various issues we'd had to deal with. There was a large earthquake in New Zealand when we were there that demolished the whole city. We had to bring in action plans. So we had some sense of how to do it, but not the medical side of things and how to protect people. And I think what we did in those early days, you know, we bought laptops so people can work from home. We introduced the social distancing in the stores, masks, hand sanitizer, had provision with the likes of Cintas and Safety Clean for where we did have an outbreak to get in, clean and stand the store back up again. It's been remarkable how we've been able to trade through that. I'm really keen that people don't let their guard down. You know, I don't know whether you believe what you listen to on the TV, but I don't think this is going to go away anytime soon, vaccine or not. So I think it's important we keep our guard up. But I'm very conscious that, you know, it's relatively easy for me in a white-collar job in an office to do all the things necessary to keep myself safe. A lot harder if you're in the field, if you're one of our drivers, if you're in one of the stores. So I'd just like to thank everybody for the efforts that they've put in this year. It's been remarkable. And we've had a great year financially as well. And coming off a few lean years, you know, this could have broken us. If we hadn't have reacted, if the staff hadn't have took this on board, it could have been a bad consequence. As it is, it's been a really good year so far.
Well, and I know I've learned how to work from home, mostly successfully, but I'm glad when I'm back in the office for sure.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You mentioned you've been out into the stores and the quarries, and I know you spent time in Arizona and Tempe before. What are some of the things in the last two and a half years that you've seen that you're most proud of?
Well, I think, you know, when I took over 2.5 years ago, it's no secret the business was at a bit of a crossroads. We took a few wrong turns. I think we've been guilty of not really protecting what we bought, we being JLL. You know, there's no doubt that the business we bought from the Schnurs could have been improved. That's why we bought it. That's what we saw when we bought this asset. I think we probably got a little bit too clever for our own good and tried to move too fast. So I think when you've identified what some of the problems were, we could have fixed them probably a little quicker. They wouldn't have been as sustainable as we've done. It probably wouldn't have been as impressive as we've achieved. But from a private equity point of view, we might have got what we wanted a little quicker. But I'm not like that. JLL as a private equity company isn't like that. It has a long tradition. We're 30 years old now as a firm of building businesses, of growing businesses. There are private equity companies that are wham bam, thank you ma'am companies. That's not JLL. So I had the full support of the team back in New York to really rebase this business and grow it back to where I thought it could be. And that's what we spent 2.5 years doing. And you look around the business now, you know, I've got a fortunate career history that I've worked in big global blue chips. And some of the things I now see that we're doing and we're building in Pioneer, you'd see in a big global blue chip. We haven't cut corners. We haven't done things on the cheap. You look at what we've done with safety, what we're doing currently with dispatch and our management of inventory, and particularly around customer and trying to put the customer first and give them an experience that they simply couldn't get with some of the competitors. Because, I don't want to be known for being the cheapest. I want to be known for being the best.
You spent a lot of time talking about what you're proud of just now. And I know I've spent time with you actually out in the field, and I've seen that you've gotten really excited about diversity and things like that. Tell me about some of the stuff you've done actually in previous jobs and what makes diversity so important to you.
Yeah. I think many guys on the way up in his career, you think you're the smartest guy in the room. You think you've got all the answers. And I was probably guilty of being like that in my early 30s. My career was, advancing. I thought I knew it all. And when I joined Fletcher Building, you realise I was in charge of 22,000 people across the globe. There's no way I could manage everybody or everything, and you had to manage through people with leadership. And I quickly realised that the best teams and the best performing teams were those that were diverse. And diverse doesn't just mean, sexually diverse or, black, white or anything like that. It's really about diverse of experience and diverse of thinking and how the experiences you bring to the job that you've had in your life. And being able to construct teams like that. I mean, classically, we talk a lot about male-female.
Right.
And, I had a lot of success in increasing the percentage within Fletcher's of females in the workforce, which was, particularly pleasing. It was a big building products business. It's not the sort of business you'd expect to see a lot of women in.
Right.
Classically, the cliches, women first go into banking and financial services and healthcare. We were a big, ugly building products and construction business. A lot of women wanted to work for us, though. And when we brought them in, we found that the customers liked them. They probably listened a little bit more. They didn't take as much for granted. And I could actually link over years the financial performance of a business and relate it to the diversity of the team that ran that business. And it was a linear relationship. And it was kind of like a born-again Christian. I found religion when I came to that. And, we didn't just advance it across, male, female. In New Zealand, Australia, there's a big indigenous population, Maoris, Aborigines. We brought those people more into the business. And we won an award, actually, called the Rainbow Tick. And it was a real award. It was audited by an official body. And it basically said that we were a place where LGBT people would be comfortable and could advance and could be what they are without being scared or hiding in the closet, etc. And it was the proudest day when we raised the flag. It's actually a rainbow flag outside the head office in Fletcher's when we got that award.
That's cool. And so is New Zealand the type of place where that's really open? That's like an easy thing to get?
Well, not for our sort of business. Again, it's not a traditional business where you'd expect to see, a high proportion of LGBT people. We did a survey. We asked people. It was discretionary. What do you identify with? And I think we had something like 8 to 10% of the people that identified as LGBT. I employed 22,000 people. That's a lot of people.
That's a lot of people.
But none of us knew that. And I think there was a sense that they weren't comfortable bringing that out into the open. So, funny story. One of the guys in the head office that I did know, he was gay, and he was an ex-Bollywood actor. So
Bollywood, like from India?
From India. He was an Indian guy. But you'd imagine him, super good-looking guy, really out of the closet.
Well, if he was an actor, he probably was good-looking.
And I actually said to him, how are we going to do this? Because he wasn't scared. He was out there and punching. And we managed to find constituencies, and the more people we brought together, the more people came out. And before you know it, as I say, we won the Rainbow Tick. And that's a legacy, you're obviously proud of your financial legacies, but that's a big legacy I was proud of. And it was the first thing I wanted to do when I came to Pioneer. And we've moved very quickly on it. And without upsetting all the guys in the business, you look at some of the stores that are managed by women.
Right.
All in the top
Girl Power at Parker, North Park. I know, Deer Valley. There's a lot of women.
Last month, weren't we? Down
yeah.
There? And, it's something I really believe in. You've got to get the balance right. It's not like everybody this sex or that persuasion or that colour. But there's no doubt that diversity of experience and background and thought really adds value.
Cool. Do you think there's some other opportunities the Pioneer has for diversity or inclusion that maybe we just haven't scratched the surface on yet?
Yeah, I think you can always do better. I mean, you've got to remember this is a journey that's been 2 years in the making. There's still a long way to go. I think it's about just breaking down stereotypes, making sure that people don't go into an interview with a preconception as to what a person can do.
Right.
And that was one of the things we we've done in the past in my previous career. I don't like forcing people. I don't like putting quotas. I think that's terrible because you tend to get the wrong people. And then the naysayers point to it and go, there you go, I told you so.
Right.
I prefer to let it kind of not handle itself, but just give it a little bit of a help.
Right.
And one of the things I would always encourage is, why did you interview 5 people for that job and they were all guys? Let's have at least a couple of ladies in there, and I think we can do more working with HR to make sure that. But then it gets to a point, and this is what I've seen in the past, where it becomes self-perpetuating.
Right.
All those things have been broken down. All those stereotypes have been broken down. Most guys are good guys. We've all got wives, daughters, mothers, It's not like we're inherently sexist per se.
No.
And once those barriers are broken down, I think, my time here is done, so to speak, and you see that self-perpetuating.
Well, one of the things I actually just thought of as you spoke was we got covered by the Denver Business Journal 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And from that, we had so much good publicity that a lot of people had brought it up in their interviews of, oh my gosh, I saw Pioneer. I didn't even think to even go interview there or apply for a job there, and they did. We have a lot more female truck drivers. We have a lot more females in our stores working and supporting the quarries. I've been hearing from HR that we are getting more and more female applicants. So it's coming true. And I know I'm excited just to see all the different experience that folks are bringing into the company.
Yes.
We've got people from big box, we've got people from small companies, we had firefighters, we've got military, and now we've got this great group of women that are joining the company as well. So I think it's awesome.
One of the things I'd like to try and work on with the team is how we get people working together more. I'm a big fan of people in the office getting out into the field. I don't mind if you take off for a day, as long as your boss has approved it. Go and work in a store. Go and spend a day in the cab with a driver. It means when you come back to the office to do your job, you've got an appreciation for what they do, and maybe we reciprocate. There's a lot of flack, not so much now, but in the early days about, Highlands Ranch and the head office. These people work hard,
Very much so.
And it would be nice for somebody at the store to come and see how the girls in finance work or...
Yeah, no, I'd love to see the stores come in. I love visiting them. I have not been on a ride-along yet, but one day after COVID, I want to go on a ride-along and see what that's about. It looks like it'd be a lot of fun to work with customers and see what the drivers do every day.
No, absolutely.
So speaking of growth, you said about growing and inclusivity and diversity. How about Pioneer growth? What's coming for Pioneer?
Well, look, in the first 18 months to 2 years, it was all about consolidation. We were in no position to grow. Financially, we didn't have the cash. We weren't generating cash. We had a lot to sort out, and you know that. We've done a lot in the last 2.5 years. I think now, with the things we've put in place and are currently putting in place, the IT guys are doing a tremendous job to try and make running this business for everybody who interacts with it a lot easier. It was really difficult to transact in this business and offer the customer the service we want. We're very close to being leading edge in that terms. And now we can kind of put our best foot forward and look to grow. I think the original plan when JLL bought this business was to do a classic private equity roll-up. You would buy other businesses, you'd bring them into Pioneer. We've got a head office here that could accommodate a $500 million business, not just a $200 million business. And that's obviously means big profits for the owner.
So are you referencing like the GX and the Grand Materials acquisitions?
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. They were supposed to be the first of 15 or 20 acquisitions of that nature. And I think had we put the hard work in first like we've now done, that would have been absolutely possible. So I think now it's about getting back on that journey, on that track. I think we're going to put our toe in the water gently. We've got a couple of stores in mind. We've mapped both Arizona and Colorado in terms of where the hot growth is. We've looked at the likes of Home Depot, where they're looking to build. And, I'm not proud enough to not follow Home Depot. They seem to know what they're doing. So we've got a couple of stores in mind, one in Colorado, one in Arizona, that we're hopefully going to open up. And I believe Paul's talked openly about that. But we have this kind of farm-to-table approach where we make a lot more money, where we mine the product ourselves, supply it, ship it, and then on to the customer. So you've seen in the last 12 months, we've opened 4 new quarries, I think it is. We've opened an entire new business stream led by Kevin Gouger, the industrial business.
Right. Cement products, right, for CMEX and those? You'll
remember in the early days, I used to pull your leg about selling the pretty stuff. I come from a world where we sold the ugly stuff, road base, concrete aggregate. There's a lot of money to be made. We would kind of ignore that now, quarries, and go after the pretty stuff. Now we sell the pretty stuff, and we also mine the ugly stuff. And there's a big market for it. And we've won contracts with big global competitors. And what that does is it gives us extra sales, extra margin, but it also isn't as seasonal as the landscape business.
Right.
So this time of year, when Paul and I look at the forecast and it's like, it's going to be lean for a few months, those guys keep on making concrete, road base all through the season. So that really helps balance out the business. So look for more quarries and in conjunction with that, more stores as we roll out. And we'll stick initially to Arizona and Colorado because that's, stick to your knitting. We know those markets. But I would love to think over time we advanced into the likes of Utah, Nevada, New Mexico, maybe even California or Texas would be the plan long term.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah.
So what's it look like for you for the next couple of weeks, months? Are we going to see you again here in Colorado soon, Arizona?
Yeah, I think I'm back on more of an even keel in terms of my schedule. There was a time a couple of years ago where I was out here every week. I think with the management team now in full control of what's going on, I come out maybe once every 3 weeks, every month. I'm very conscious I haven't been to Arizona for a while, so I think my next trip, a few weeks' time, I'll be down in Arizona. Want to go and see some of the stores, get to Tempe and see the guys and gals in the office. And I'll get into that cycle between now and Christmas. We've got a lot of exciting stuff going on. We're working on the budget for next year. So expect to see more of me, which I assume is a good thing.
I think so. And then what's coming up for JLL? What's going on with them?
We're really busy at the moment. So this business is in what we call Fund 7.
Okay.
So private equity fund raises money and then spends it buying businesses like Pioneer. We've raised now Fund 8. That's the next fund. So we're busy buying other businesses to fill out that fund. We've got an aerospace business. We've got a healthcare business. We've got a labs business, actually, which is quite fortuitous given coronavirus. So as well as my day job as the CEO of Pioneer, I'm working on a lot of those businesses as well. So we've been really busy throughout this. And in terms of the long-term future of JLL and the Pioneer partnership, I think it's too early for us to exit this business. We put a lot of work and money into getting it to this state. We think there's a lot of legs left in the business. And certainly we will see a future together for the next year or so.
Great, thanks. Well, thanks so much for taking the time with us today. I know that I learned a lot about what's happening with Pioneer from your perspective and JLL's, and I'm looking forward to talking to you. And I think in the next thing we want to do this quarterly, is that right?
Yep. Great. Well, I think we should see what people think.
That's true.
You might think quarterly's too much.
Well, thank you all for viewing today. Again, you can find this episode on the Sandbox as well as any future episodes. Also check out the Sandbox for all the things that are currently going on with the company. So we have stuff for wellness. We've got stuff. All of Paul's messages are on there. All of Mark's monthly messages are on there. But also, please comment on the video and let us know what you think. And as well, what kind of stuff do you want to hear? Who do you want to hear it from? Do you want Mark to wear a different colored shirt next time?
You only wear black.
Only for black.
Very slimming.
Very slim. So just let us know. And thanks again for joining us on our first Pioneer Pulse.
Thanks, everybody.